Hello, this is the front desk.
Good morning and welcome to another episode of the Crack and Backs podcast with your hosts, Dr. Terry Wyman and Dr. Spencer Barron. How you doing this morning, guys?
I'm doing good, Lance.
Lance, good to hear you.
That's great to hear. So today we are joined by Dr. John Mayer. Dr. Mayer is the scientific officer and board of directors member for the Vert Mooney Research Foundation, and he obtained a Doctor of Chiropractic degree from National University of Health Sciences and a PhD degree in exercise science/science education from Syracuse University. How are you doing this morning, Dr. John?
Great, Lance. How are you?
That's great to hear.
All right, John. Well, when we have one of our favorite people who I regard as a very smart man, Dr. Joe Verna, say that you're his idol as far as intelligence, that says a lot. So, you're regarded as one of the smartest and probably most educated doctors in our field and our profession. And you were always quoted as a guy who's always wanting to move forward, both physically and mentally. You were initially inspired by the book and the man, The Unguarded Moment by Vert Mooney. Of all the books out there and all the men out there, why that book and why that man?
Yeah, that's a great question. And first of all, thanks for having me here. And I both appreciate it. And I appreciate what you guys are doing for the community and the chiropractic profession through these podcasts. Dr. Mooney, the namesake of our foundation. What a outstanding individual. And his main contribution, why that book, The Unguarded Moment, perfect title. He orthopedic surgeon by training, highly regarded in spine care. His biggest contribution in my eyes is that he, back in the 80s, started to move towards medical exercise therapy. And at the time, that was, oh no, he's a surgeon. Why is he doing that? So he was pretty much outcasted by his colleagues. And but he pushed forward. He was persistent, humble orthopedic surgeon, and I apologize for my orthopedic surgeon colleagues. That's sometimes an oxymoron with those two, as everybody knows. I say this quite a bit. So when I get surgery, I want my surgeon to be self-assured. So anyway, that's a compliment to our orthopedic surgeon colleagues. Dr. Mooney, Unguarded Moment. Well, my entry into his life or his professional work was really an unguarded moment. I was working with Dr. Joe Verna in Syracuse on a grant, looking at back exercise for more pragmatic ways to do back and core exercise, and through several of my mentors. And Joe's like, "Hey, why don't you come out to San Diego?" And Dr. Mooney is like, and I was in Syracuse at the time. This is the middle of winter. We haven't seen sun in months. And I looked at the TV, and I'm watching the I don't remember the name, Torrey Pines Golf Tournament with the pros, and I'm watching beautiful scenery and the paragliders. I'm like, I'm out of here. I'm going. So, and then Dr. Mooney invited me to join his foundation, and it took off from there. So he and one of the first things he did that I did with him was I went to orthopedic grand rounds at UC San Diego, and at that time it was 2000, early 2000, and I was still working on my PhD. I had my chiropractic degree, and I was like sweating bullets. I'm going to be joining with orthopedic surgeons in the grand rounds, and he's like, he was stern but humble, and he just was, John, you know your stuff. Just get in there and discuss. Keep it to the science, and keep it straight. So anyway, that was it. And since then, he passed away 10, 12 years ago. But if anybody in this audience hasn't read that book, it's a great contribution to the field, and particularly for chiropractors, about taking risks and doing things that might be against the popular belief at the time. So fortunately, through that, and then his experience, and I imagine you too as well. these unguarded moments where things just change. And part of my career was 11 years in Florida, down by Dr. Barron, sort of at USF, not quite. I don't know why it's called South Florida. Maybe you can educate me.
Yeah.
But you're more in South Florida than Tampa. But anyway, that was an unguarded moment with Dr. Scott Haldeman. I was working on a project that he directed, and he was the president of Neck Pain Task Force, sponsored in part by the World Health Organization. I was at his office, and he had a call with the dean at South Florida College of Medicine. They were looking for an endowed chair, and I was helping him. I was reviewing research articles, extremely mundane, and or not mundane, intense is a better word. And he, it was at night, and I was wondering why I'm there at night on the week. It was like 9, 10 o'clock. But I'm wondering, this superstar and great clinician, researcher, etc. Like, why is he doing this? But anyway, he said, "Hey, well, maybe you could be a good fit for this, and I'll mention you to the dean." And then I didn't have any intention of it, and then here we go, and then 11 years there, and now I'm back in California. So anyway, the unguarded moment, great read, Dr. Mooney, outstanding contributor to musculoskeletal care, particularly for what chiropractors do now, or have been doing, not now, like have been doing for decades and decades and decades. So strong supporter of Dr. Mooney and his work, and honored to be part of his foundation now.
I'll tell you what, Dr. Mary, it is truly an honor to have you on, because that we the Florida Chiropractic Association fought long and hard to get this research chair position with the University of South Florida, the only one of its kind, and to have a chiropractor, involved at such a level is it's a prolific experience. So thank you, because I know that during this podcast we're just going to embark on some of the coolest stuff that I want to ask you about with regards to research and chiropractic, because I know Terry and I have been doing this for a long time, and me personally, 38 years as a chiropractor, and I remember coming out and having arguments or debates with orthopedic surgeons, and medical profession, and what was the most common thing that they would ask? Where's the research? Where's the research? Well, we now probably have more research on spinal manual manipulation, not just by chiropractors, but by osteopaths and so on, than any treatment modality out there. But I mean, you're a testimonial to that. So with that said, I thank you for being on the show. So what I want to ask you, and obviously Dr. Scott Haldeman, his name is synonymous with greatness in our profession. He's an MD, a DC, and a PhD. And he gave you this opportunity as a chiropractor to hold this endowed position. Can you tell us a little bit more about how how this worked for you during your tenure there? What was it like? Because you're working with medical doctors and so on. And was there an ego issue? Was there, and what kind? And then I also want to know what kind of research was being done out there for the listeners and viewers to know.
Great, good question. So it was an honor. Well, thank you if you're involved with FCA and all the support they've done over the past. I'm going to underestimate the number of years, at least 20, 25 years, to try to get this movement with an endowed chair and then a college and all that. So the FCA, I'm honored, and I recently heard. I left there about 4.5 years ago, and it's great that the FCA and USF found the second endowed chair, and I wish him the best of luck there. Interesting. So the first endowed chair held by a chiropractor in the United States, and on the surface, when I say that, it sounds cool and all. When you get down to the day-to-day activities, and you guys are barrier breakers too, in sports and all sorts of other things in the profession. It sounds great, but the day-to-day, you walk in and you have the chiropractor title. Oh, you're a chiropractor. Oh, okay. You sort of get the, you know, are you not really accepted, or are you? And my program was in, or the chiropractic program was in the College of Medicine. I was in the physical therapy department. So all sorts of turf issues and such. So at the end of the day, um, it's about, so my and now there's many chiropractic researchers in multidisciplinary settings, as you know, but it's like, okay, strip off the initials. Not, and sometimes when I say that, the chiropractors are like, well, what do you mean? You're supposed to be there for chiropractic. I'm like, well, you spend a day in this setting and tell me what. Anyway, so that's my approach. I hopefully did some good work for the profession, and the battles were day to day. But what was it like? So within a few weeks or so, and interestingly, the dean of the School of Physical Therapy and Rehab Sciences was a strong supporter, and the dean of the College of Medicine at the time, to get this in there. And we had some support from the major organizations and legislatively. So anyway, it was a great fit, and took the battles, took the darts, if you will, but those went away after a while. And I was able to get into some of the more key committee memberships and led some of those committees. So, for example, I was on the College of Medicine Appointment, Promotion, and Tenure Committee for years. So a chiropractor is making decisions about medical doctor faculty and their career. So very, very interesting. But from a research standpoint, we worked heavily on a broader scope of practice type of thing for chiropractic, looking at biomechanics, exercise, laboratory based, but most, if not actually all of my research, if it's not conducted in the field, we worked a lot with first responders, got grants with the military and firefighters. If it's not pragmatic in the field, it was the next step's going to be pragmatic in the field. So we develop and test exercise therapy, which led to looking at broader things and with clinical practice guidelines, which included manual therapy. I was on a team with other chiropractors and other MDs to look closely at the spinal manipulation guidelines that was put forth by North American Spine Society, for example. So it was broad array. My main topic was therapeutic exercise for management of musculoskeletal disorders. And we, in that academic setting, it's a team approach, but it's very individual as well. So if you're not publishing, the saying "publish or perish" is, I'm not a big fan of those type of cliches, but it's sort of true. You have to publish. You have to get your name out there. There's no way. In that position, I would never do this to hide in your office and go about your teaching or whatever. So, and interestingly, sometimes when I present to chiropractors, and I was actually at an FCA conference at large, and Scott Haldeman was there. We were presenting a team on the clinical practice guidelines for back and neck pain, and a chiropractor in the front said, "This isn't chiropractic research. When are you going to start doing chiropractic research?" And I was just like, fortunately, Scott chimed in at the time. So, anyway, what is chiropractic? Well, I think we do a lot more than manual therapy, but I understand that it's key. And now there's groups of chiropractors that wish to, I don't want to say abandon manipulation or adjusting, but use it as secondary. And, I'm like, hey, men and women, if you do that, physical therapists and, now doctors, Doctor of Osteopathic Medicine, they're going to take it and own it. So, and they have. So, hey, hold on to that. It does wonders. And, and oh yeah, it's closely to your scope of practice. So,
good luck with that.
Practice. So you can't.
Hey, John, on that topic, I want to kind of stop you on that topic because you've already established that you're fighting for the profession from a research standpoint and doing it the right way. And as a researcher and a chiropractor and a PhD, who's trying to fight something that we've been battling with for 20, 30 years to get recognized as good spine doctors, I'm gonna have you roll up your sleeves a little bit, unbutton that first button, and have some fun with this one, because there you go. Because I want to ask you what your thoughts are on all these chiropractors on YouTube putting in the microphones and trying to build up followers because of the crack and the Y strap. That's gotta drive you crazy. So I want to hear from your intelligence what you think about that, and have fun.
Well,
That's
first of all, Google back pain and cure and see what the junk you get, and and look look at the who's generating those on Google. So there's too many chiropractors on the top page of Google or whatever, in my opinion. And there's other professions and there's unlicensed people, and it sort of drives me nuts. So within chiropractic, and if you want to look at manipulation, if every healthcare intervention was held to the standards that spinal manipulation was, we probably would not have a lot of these therapies that are approved or accepted or whatever. So the body of evidence for spinal manipulation is huge. So never feel shy about offering that service to your patients. The body of evidence is enormous. Some of these things that are out there now, back pain cure, there's no evidence. And anybody who says back pain and cure in the same sentence probably doesn't know what they're talking about. So and as you know, back pain in particular, and I know chiropractors do much more than back pain. I work with firefighters. We took a global approach on wellness, and if we want to talk about that, we can. But the body, the stuff that you see, and some of it, you see one study, it's a case report, or it's a case series on 5 patients, and then all of a sudden it's being promoted as a cure for back pain, or it's something. What was it? Something for patellofemoral syndrome the other day. I'm like, what? Where's the evidence on this? And they say it's well researched. You look at it. We don't expect that our day-to-day practitioners know the literature. However, you need to sort of, and they don't need to do research. You sort of need to know how to read it, interpret it. And the patients sometimes are more educated than the clinician because the information is so easy to access now.
Yeah.
So
Dr.
I'm sorry, I'm calling it junk, but a lot of it is junk. So
okay. Hey, John, let me ask you a couple of questions about you brought up the first responders comment that Dr. Terry has brought on some amazing guests that are military and firefighters. And I got to tell you, man, I never realized how critical it is that these firefighters, what they go through, and their the debriefing that has to go on with some of the trauma that is ongoing that they see. So I've gained a whole new respect. Can you share with us some of the things that you're doing to help
please,
and research?
Yeah. So as I'm out in Southern California now, and as we watch the remnants of the Fairview fire, which we got within 2 hours, 2 miles of mandatory evacuation from that one. And
so I'm in the Woolsey fire area.
Oh gosh.
So I live where the Woolsey fire came through. Yeah. That's me.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. So I hear your pain on that one. So
and interestingly, when I first interviewed for the position at USF, it was in 2007 early. We had I forgot what the fire was in San Diego County. Flew out I'm like, oh, at least they don't have fires in Florida. And get out there. And
but it gets hot, though.
Looking at houses. I'm like, are you kidding me? It's like thick with smoke. My wife is looking at me like, she's like, but I don't know, it's not as common. But anyway, and I also experienced during a big grant that we had in the Tampa Bay area, Hurricane Irma coming up. and watching the firefighters go through there. And the interesting thing, this is attest to the dedication the firefighters have. We're doing this grant, and we're everything's shutting down. The eye is targeting right up through Tampa Bay. Fortunately went east. Fortunately for Tampa Bay area, went east, but Flint City and things like that got hit hard. But anyway, we're planning to cancel. Showing up to do. We did some education on nutrition, behavioral health, but mainly deliver therapeutic exercise. So we're like, we're going to cancel because you guys need to go, help the community know. And they're like, no, we don't want to cancel. We know this is important for us in the community, so please come if you can. So they didn't want us to cancel. For them, they're like, no. They were already focused on canceling for us and the community. But anyway, what a tough position. So some of the things that we're working on with firefighters now is, okay, we look directly at therapeutic exercise, particularly for spine disorders, and we did a lot with functional movement screen and how that interplays and things like that. And we, 10, 15 years ago or so, it's like, hey, obesity is not uncommon in firefighters. You might think so, and they sort of think so. But when you go to, their stations and you look around, and it's like, okay, well, you represent the general population in that regard. Okay, well, we can't avoid obesity, so we better address it. So start out like that, and then it's like, this behavioral health. We understand there's PTSDs and depression and marital problems and even suicide rates going up. Okay, we can't avoid that. Now, front and center, it's like, well, no, it's not. You can't avoid it. Sleep disorders. Wait. Oh, yeah, we better at least talk about sleep disorders and make sure we mention it. But hey, those are critically important. It's like not can't avoid it. They need to be part of the package. So nutrition, sleep, behavioral health, and I know from a chiropractic standpoint, and therapeutic exercise and preventive manipulation, maintenance manipulation. I know that it's been a taboo in the past, but hey, they want it. You go to a station, can you adjust my back, doc? I'm like, well, I'm not really here for that, but it's got an appointment to come and get it. So you can't all those together. So perfect fit for chiropractors to manage all that. I know we're not behavioral health specialists, but you can triage, you can do some initial workup and some initial education. I know, depending on the state, you can do a lot with nutrition, but you have to address sleep, nutrition, and behavioral health. They're all interlinked. If you're nope, I'm a chiropractor, all I want to do is musculoskeletal care or spine care. Well, here, all these three things, sleep, nutrition, obesity, behavioral health, are major comorbidities to the musculoskeletal problems for the general population. I'm not positive about elite athletes with those, but if you have an elite athlete who's not sleeping well, you better address that sleep before you're worried about their achy knee.
I'm so grateful that you tied in chiropractic to all those other facets of healthcare that we embrace. It's interesting. I ask a lot of the interns that pass through my office if they teach the triad of health, and they look at me like some of them look at me like I'm an alien. I go, no. In chiropractic college, we were taught the triad of health is like a pyramid, and each side is labeled mental, nutritional, and physical, and that's how we are in balance, or should be, but it's not always the case. So if you look at health like that, I love the fact that you're doing research on other than musculoskeletal, but how it gets impacted by sleep, nutrition, mental health, and so on. So thank you for that. That's good.
So the current firefighter project that we just completed, actually out here in Southern California, took a broad scope prevention and wellness and fitness intervention approach with firefighters, and at each phase we had a chiropractor on the team and a traditional chiropractor clinician. But I wanted to have a shout out for the other types of chiropractors that often get lost in the discussion, that are owners of companies or that support companies that are in the mix with driving healthcare forward, but they're owned by chiropractors. So, for example, Empatha, Musculoskeletal Care, which is a behavioral health company owned by a chiropractor. Spine and Sport Physical Therapy with Dr. Verna, owned by a chiropractor, or share owner. Web Exercises, which is owned by a chiropractor, and I apologize, but I'm leaving Spine Research, owned by a chiropractor. So we have these non-traditional chiropractors playing big roles in this multi-dimensional integrative health approach for first responders. And part of the reason to do this, one, there's a great need in the first responders and firefighters, but also the thought was if you can, for generalizing to other populations, if you can make this work for firefighters, you probably can apply it elsewhere. So tough nut to crack, if you will.
So, Mike, the research is there research that you're most impressed with that either you've done or that has been published? Let's go in the past, and then maybe something that's being worked on right now that you find very solid for chiropractic.
Yeah. So, at this point, we're still seeing some systematic reviews on adjusting or manipulation for back and neck pain, and that's great. But I don't think we need that anymore. But when those big reviews and big studies came out, those were the groundbreakers. So, from a traditional standpoint, I cling to those as key. Now the branching out for chiropractic research, heading towards not so much chiropractic for non-musculoskeletal disorders, but in the whole realm of treating a patient. And some of that research is coming out now, including some of the work we're doing. So you'll see in the past it was, if you mention chiropractic care, well, what is that? Now it's like when you see chiropractic care and you read the article, well, this includes a bunch of things of evidence-based management, interventions, if you will. And that's probably critical and that I keep an eye on closely. I'm also impressed with some of the biomechanical laboratory-based work, and it's going to be top research are still looking for mechanisms on what is the cause of musculoskeletal disorders, chronic disorders like back pain, searching for a specific cause, and what are the exact mechanisms of manipulation. So those are impressive. It gets sometimes, these are great researchers doing that work, but sometimes it makes my eyes blurry a little bit on looking at that. But gosh, you have to do it because we're still being questioned about that stuff. So, thank goodness for them. I'll keep having my blurry eyes as I get older, but we need that. So I keep my eye on that closely because we're still held to that standard, and we need it.
Some of our colleagues that are involved in functional nutrition as diplomates, functional neurology as diplomates. I mean, even in the sports world, but the ones that seem to specialize, they have a really defined explanation of what spinal manual manipulation is, what chiropractic is, what actually happens, what is biomechanically, biomedically, biologically going on in the system. Do you have any thoughts on, like, if obviously if a medical doctor asked you, hey, Dr. Mayer, what is the adjustment do? What is that chiropractic? What is that popping and cracking? What would you respond with?
Well, first I would say it's a scientifically proven technique that helps various musculoskeletal conditions, particularly the back and neck. And my definition, it's a manual technique that assists with proper movement and positioning of muscles and joints, and also helps improve the neurological components around those joints and the surrounding tissues. So With that said, I can document all those as some sort of evidence, and some of the practicing chiropractors might disagree with me, and I'm not into getting into debate about subluxation or this, that, and the other thing. I don't. Bottom line, it works. If you want to explain it by a subluxation model, that's fine. Or if you want to explain it by a biomedical model, that's fine with me too. So that works. So do it.
So I expected and got a very intelligent and sophisticated answer that I was looking forward for. But now I'm going to put a twist on it. What if you were attending a career day in an elementary school? How would you describe what a chiropractor does as someone who's got all this data in your head? How would you get a kid to understand what it is?
When I was, I'm going to go back to when I was probably not a kid, but my grandparents, it was 1987 in the fall. My grandparents drove me around the country looking at chiropractic schools. I didn't go to I lived in New York, but I didn't go to New York Chiropractic College in downstate. But we drove through, went to National in Chicago, Toronto National, trying to go across the states, Kansas, St. Louis for Logan, and I'm missing one. Oh, and I already made the decision to go to National, but and my grandparents they drove around. They did a lot of 48 states travel, and they'd never been to Iowa. So on the way back, we literally, you could see it was like 5 miles from the border of Iowa. And it's not just they drove through, they would spend time there. And my grandpa was like, "Do you want to go to Palmer?" Because I'm like, "No, I already made my mind up that I'm going to National." But I'll get to your point in a second. Uh, so, and unfortunately, hopefully not taking all the blame on this one, but they never got to Iowa. They've been to all other 47 states in the continental U.S. except Iowa. And we were right there. If I would have just gone to visit Palmer. But anyway, we spent a night there. But here's my point. So we spent a lot of time driving, and my grandma, who was uneducated, but she was, I don't understand where she got the knowledge back then, because there's no internet, she read a lot, I get that. But she explained to me what a chiropractor was. So, and she didn't even know much about it. So a chiropractor is, and so I guess I had to be educated enough to understand that I wanted to do this. But she would ask me a lot of questions, and she would formulate what a chiropractor was, and I still hold on to that. That a chiropractor is a healthcare practitioner that looks at the whole body, that primarily uses some sort of manual therapy, meaning you can touch with your hands, but also pays close attention to nutrition, diet, your behaviors, and your exercise. So she gave me a very simple definition, and I still, utilize that. So is that good enough for elementary student? I don't know. Yeah. It's good enough for me as a chiropractor, the potential student in 1987 driving around the country. So
that's actually awesome.
Yeah. I love it. That's great. That's a little bit better than my explanation of spine and line makes you feel fine.
Oh God,
that's fine. Hey, wait. Now, Terry, you got to come on. Now, you got to back me up on this. Some of our patients that are superior athletes, but may not have gotten the education. It works.
I'll give you that. Yeah, no, I have no feedback for that except positive. You're right.
So, John, let me ask you about. Here's going to be an interesting answer because of what's going on in Florida, and I'm not sure about in other states. Chiropractors rallying to get prescription rights for medication. What are your thoughts?
Well, my first thought is, do you want that liability? So I'm all for expanding scope, and but does this chiropractor want that liability? My brother is a medical doctor. He's in infectious diseases. physician, and I've watched him go through his training and what he has to do and how stressed out he is and these life and death decisions. And some of the scope of practice issues with chiropractors and medication rights and prescription rights is a lot to do with the pain meds, right? Um, we should be allowed to do that. Well, what are we going to get a postgraduate course on how to manage it? So first of all, I'm all for expanding the scope. Is our infrastructure set up for that at this time? I don't know. Some of the things, some of the argument, and I heard Dr. Winterstein talk about this extensively, the past president of National, James Winterstein, who from St. Pete, cool guy. When I saw him, you see him, he's all professional with his sports, with tie and nice suit and all that. And then you see him ride up to other events in his motorcycle and a leather jacket. It's like, what?
Super cool guy.
Yeah. But I understand that point of view. And it's like, he I heard him mention that. Well, if we have prescription rights, we would also be able to tell patients to get off medications. So
that was the other,
which makes a lot of sense. And the other point of view in support of that is, well, if you're not a chiropractor, just a layperson, you can tell somebody to take Advil or Tylenol or whatever over the counter, but as a chiropractor, you can't do that. So that doesn't really make sense to me. So I'm for expansion of the scope of practice. I don't feel comfortable personally telling a patient or prescribing medication, but I understand pushing the borders on that a bit. But you asked me a question, what is a chiropractor? I didn't say anything about drugless, non-surgical, natural, with that thing, with these expanding scopes in mind. So, I got into a bit of a discussion, just to put it mildly, about, you say your profession says you're natural, but is it really natural to take a joint and move it beyond what it naturally does? And I'm like, what? So anyway, but that pushes into what is how do you define chiropractic? So there's a lot of turf issues, and turf issues in healthcare can be helpful because it keeps you sharp. But if you can't define what you do, it becomes problematic. And other professions have the same type of issues going on too. So it's not just us.
Yeah, it's not just us. I mean, I've always said you can go to 5 different cardiologists with high blood pressure, and there'll be 5 different ways to treat. Yeah. So, just like chiropractors, there's 70,000 licensed chiropractors in the world, and there's probably 70,000 different ways to treat somebody. So,
and if a patient asks me or a person on the street, whatever, should I see a chiropractor? Or can you refer? I would always like to know the chiropractor that I'm referring to, rather than just make a blanket referral to chiropractic. And that's just not for chiropractors. So, should I go to a physical therapist? Well, who?
Yeah.
Are you going to get the physical therapist that lays you down on your stomach and rubs ultrasound on your back and put the hot pack on and tells you to go home? Or I need to know, so I don't just make blanket referrals to anybody. Whoa, how can you tell? So how can you tell somebody not to go to chiropractor? I didn't say I'm not. I have a great list of chiropractors that are outstanding that I can refer you to, but I'm not going to just say to go to any chiropractor. So,
well, John, I hope you're ready for one of our classic moments in our Cracking Backs podcast. It's the rapid fire questioning. You'll give this may be difficult for you, but I need brief answers to some of the questions. There's 5 of them. Nothing will stump you. You'll probably have some good answers. So if you have a cup of coffee in front of you, you might want to take a sip. Otherwise, are you ready? Okay. As an evidence-based practitioner, what is the best exercise to combat the stress of prolonged sitting?
exercises are going to strengthen your trunk extensors, posterior chain.
Nice. Number 2, what is the best research article that you have read in the last 2 years?
Excluding my
And
own.
it can be by you. It's a
The systematic review on chiropractic for non-musculoskeletal care.
Nice.
Nice.
Good. Where was that published?
That was,
Do you know?
that was published by, I know the author is Pierre Cote and such. So they gave, you said rapid fire, so I'll stop.
Yeah, no.
It was controversial, so I'll leave it at that. But it's the best way to stir up some controversy on the topic and get people excited about it. So
That's great. Number 3, what is the easiest way to strengthen your lower back when you have limited time?
if you're able to do deadlifts, I'd say deadlifts.
Oh, very nice. Okay, my style. I like that. All right. Number 4, what would you say your favorite trick to use when you get maybe writer's block or you want to keep your brain working? Is there? I mean, obviously, research is intensive. It's creative. It's what do you do when you sit there and you go, whoa, I can't think straight. I can't think.
Grab back of head, find nearest wall, smash against wall, knock some sense into me.
I can see it now.
But I think about doing that a lot. First of all, get off my butt from sitting, because a lot of research is sitting in front of a computer, and do something active. So doing it, and I don't put a time frame on it. I'm just going to get out and do some activity, walk, get to the gym, do my deadlifts or squats, whatever. Get out.
Excellent.
Get out of the box.
Right on. And number 5, when you work out, what is your favorite music to listen to?
Oh boy. Not oh boy. It's funny, people don't really think of me like this. I like metal. So yeah. So I don't really like the names. My namesake, he actually stole that name from me.
Yes, I was thinking about it. Yeah.
And I like metal, so I jam. And then so when I'm doing even my writing and interpretation for research, I have metal jamming in the background.
Come on, really? You have a
All right,
favorite
I have
group?
to ask, what is your favorite metal band?
Yeah.
I can go through the ages, but started out with Black Sabbath, and then Metallica, and then
John just became my favorite researcher.
Yeah, and I don't know. There was this one guy who did his PhD. I think he was from Sweden or somewhere over there, but he did his PhD on metal, and he went through the years, and it was very cool. So, it captivated me from the metal standpoint, but also he did it from research. But yeah, Metallica.
Hey, John, I'm going to take it another level. Sabbath, Dio, or which one? Which Old Sabbath or New Sabbath? Are you going to go with with Ozzy or Dio?
Ozzy.
I'm a Dio fan.
I love Dio too. I mean, I watched. Now this is getting too granular, but we can talk about this a lot. I watched the Randy Rhoads documentary, and how when he came, with Ozzy at the same time, Sabbath got Dio, and it's like, wow, they both put out like outstanding albums at the time.
Right.
Oh my God! I have to tell you, I saw a news piece that said that the Black Sabbath's one of Black Sabbath's albums had its 50-year anniversary or something like that.
Yeah.
And I started listening to Masters of Reality just a few days ago.
Oh my God!
Wow.
Swear, John, this could be my favorite interview of all, just because of that.
Yeah.
To have a
generations, and the different, AC/DC, who you like better, Bon Scott, or oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank on the darn Why am I drawing a blank? But anyway, he's in Florida. Lives in Florida on the east coast.
Yeah. What was the other
My
one?
wife's gonna kill me that I don't remember this.
I know. I'm trying to remember. That's great. That is great.
Van Halen with Sammy Hagar or David Lee Roth. That's a no-brainer for me. But anyway,
I liked Sammy Hagar. I really
I
liked
do
him
like
a lot.
him.
Right?
Yeah, I do like him. All right. Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
No. Okay. All right. I was actually gonna. I did have a question that, going back to clinical stuff, and I was having more fun talking about rock bands. But anyway, what I wanted to ask you is, I have been somewhat impressed by Heidi Havoc's work out in the UK and England. Are you familiar with some of her stuff?
a little bit. If you could refresh a memory on.
Yeah. She, Dr. Havoc is, I think it's HAVAAK. I think, I don't recall exactly, but anyway, it caught my eye, and it was really one of the earlier papers that she published in Journal of Neurophysiology. I think it was. But this was like, this is 2010, 2012, something like that. But it was spinal manipulation and its effects on the sensory motor system, or sensory motor integration, I think it was. And it really quantified, the effects of spinal manipulation on proprioception. And for the layperson listening, that's balance. And what do you well, if you weren't familiar with her work, I love her stuff. It just seemed good.
Well, I'm loosely familiar with her and that work, but that line of work is outstanding, and it gives maybe possibly the main or a main mechanism on why manipulation works or what it's trying to accomplish, and it's when you put it in terms of improving balance, it's easier to explain to patients what it does. So, and when you say chiropractic and belief in the same sentence, sometimes you get, oh, it's a belief system. Like, no, but I personally, when I get adjusted, I feel more confident in my ability to walk, sports, whatever. So, and it's not just because, it did a temporary relief of my back pain. It's because, it's doing something else that I don't fully understand. And we've also done not published work, but, observational stuff. If you, I don't know if I'm sure you're familiar with a functional movement screen, but if you, in particular with athletes, you might be doing it in your practice. But if you do, functional movement screen, adjust somebody, and then have them do it again. If there's deficits, you can see improvement like right away on certain things, and some of the balance related movements in the FMS. So there's definitely something there, and that line of work is important as we move forward.
Terry, have you done FMS?
Mm-hmm.
Have you? I'll take pieces of FMS. I'll adjust somebody, and then retest ranges of motion or muscle strength. Have you ever done it with FMS?
Yeah, I do it like a biomechanical screen before, then I'll adjust them, and I'll do it afterwards to see the changes and show them how things are moving different. Yeah.
Thanks, John. That's I didn't even think to do that. John, we're going to wrap up, and I wanted to ask you one last question, and it was probably what you feel the biggest misconception in our profession today, and how can we fix that?
The biggest misconception within the profession or about the profession?
Well, gosh, you could go either way. Terry, your choice.
I'm gonna go with biggest misconception that the public views chiropractic that can be fixed and how we fix it. Because we're starting to see a lot of these YouTubers influence how people view our profession. So one thing is get them off YouTube, but how do we fight that, and how do we stay on track with improving our profession?
define what you do as a chiropractor, stick to it, and stay focused and keep helping patients. So with that, I said that I proposed a solution, but the barrier of what the public thinks is they don't understand what chiropractic is. They hear all sorts of things about chiropractic. What am I going to get? How, those. So stick to what you do the best. Continue to help your patients is the solution to that. So, and I don't have a strong feeling on what a chiropractor should do. It's very broad scope, and there's a lot of chiropractors doing good things. So, and I would also suggest to help that barrier a little bit, public perception. If you're not the type of chiropractor that's going to best for helping that type of patient, send them to another chiropractor you think's better than you. So, I don't
love that.
Oh, whoa! What do you mean? I'm like, well, you can't do everything.
Yeah.
So
Right.
Yeah, we need to work as a group and refer amongst each other and make sure that we put the patient first, not our egos first. I think that's fantastic.
Very good, John. It has been wonderful speaking with you. I'm so glad to have met you virtually, but glad to have met you. It's been an honor. Thank you.
And John, thanks for all you do for our profession. Keep the research going and keep helping us be better. So thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you for all you guys do. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Crackin' Backs podcast. We hope you enjoyed, and make sure you follow our Instagram at Crackin' Backs Podcast. Catch new episodes every Monday. See you next time.